Got a part of a foghorn there. There we go. Okay, Terry, you're on.
Okay. Good job, Melissa. Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website and podcast. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you miss the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow along.
And tonight's recap will start on page XVII, where it says it was now time, and will end on page XIX, where it says the greatest assets that our society has. And our study tonight will start on page XIX, the ending of the forward to the second edition, where it says while the internal difficulties, and then it will end at the end of the forward to the fourth edition. So we'll be reading finishing up the forward to the second edition and reading in its entirety the forward to the third and fourth editions this evening. And do we have any announcements? I have one which is a little bit after the fact. I'm hoping all home group members saw the email. We were scheduled for a group conscience last night, but because we did not have a chance to have a group officers meeting to come up with agenda, plus we don't have the information that's going to be for anything that we may need to discuss before Q3 assembly, we are going to bump our group conscience probably until a week in August, and I will let you know what that date is as soon as I have it. Do we have any other announcements?
Okay. No other. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Terry. Welcome to the Lewisburg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for a Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of silent meditation followed by our family's fog-light prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Trish. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Okay, we going to do that now, or do I go into please be aware?
You go ahead.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted and sharing as to not distract others or yourself. We suggest we observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. Friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share. We will call on you in the order hands are raised.
From the forward to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are focus your breath on breath and posture. Breathe in God and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God and let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study. So let's bring on in those little monks. And let's have our family's fog light prayer. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those who are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
Yeah. Okay, let's have our secretary report. Take it away, Donald.
Who, me?
Yeah, you are.
Good evening, everyone.
Secretary.
No, secretary.
Oh,
No.
excuse me.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Donald, and I am a very grateful, recovered, but not cured alcoholic. And I guess I am your recovered alcoholic secretary. And I have asked Miss Serena to read this recovered statement. And we read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Serena? Need to unmute.
Got it? Hi. Okay, Serena, alcoholic. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered, but not cured? That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than the body. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for about an hour before the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our big book study starts promptly at 6:30, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our big book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only real element to sobriety were God, a big book, and a recovered alcoholic, one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic. And the success rate was as follows. From the forward to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% of them got sober at once and remained that way. 25% opened up or sobered up after some relapsed, and the remainder who stayed on with AA showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time? There we go. Welcome. And then the recovered alcoholics. Okie doke. And these are your potential sponsors. If anyone is anyone celebrating a milestone this week?
Don't see anyone.
Well, we've all got the today.
Serena's got her hand up. What you got, Serena?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, there she is.
Hi, I'm Serena and I'm alcoholic. I'm not recovered alcoholic. I don't know when to put my hand down and when to put it up, apparently. So, but I had 60 days yesterday and a piece of cake and a coin.
Wonderful.
Congratulations. That's huge.
That is huge. 2 months. Congratulations.
Well done,
And here you
Donald.
go.
Congratulations,
Woohoo!
Serena.
Just for you, Serena.
Congratulations, and keep up the good work and stuff. I think you're doing just wonderful. If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you through Buzzard Mail. Delivery time is questionable. So okay, moving on. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal posted in chat or on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in chat, and thank you, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you, Donald. From chapter
Okay. Go ahead.
From
I
chapter
didn't
2,
know.
there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed, was it Tradition 2?
1.
Okay. Let's take a quick look at Tradition 2. Please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous, and Art, take it away.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. And Tradition 2 is unique in that short form is longer than the long form. So, as we normally do, we'll start with the short form of the tradition. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. And the long form says, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a living God as he may express himself in our group conscience. And apparently what has happened is that in the in the process of condensing the traditions, they took a line from tradition 9, I believe it is, and I'm looking for it. Yeah. And added it to tradition 2 because 9 in the short form doesn't have room to say anything about it. And the statement is this: for true leaders in AA are but trusted and experienced servants of the whole. So that was added into tradition 2. Now, I haven't got any additional reading for tonight. I'm just going to kind of talk about tradition 2 for a minute, and it'll be probably a short presentation, but there are many examples of how this tradition works. One of the examples that we find in the book is in Bill's story, where he talks about having been presented an opportunity to work for the hospital in New York, and he was pretty excited about this and thought that was a good idea, and he probably should take that position. However, when he brought it to the group and they talked about it, the group said, you really can't do this, because that would be professionalizing Alcoholics Anonymous. And then one of the group members reminded Bill of the fact that he had often mentioned the fact that the good is sometimes the enemy of the best. And so he didn't take the job. And that's kind of how tradition 2 became. It took a number of years for the traditions to be developed, but that was one of the ways in which this tradition became part of the traditions that we have. Is that group decisions are almost always better than a decision that might be made by a particular individual. Not sure that always holds true. However, it's a pretty general generally accepted as being the best way to operate in Alcoholics Anonymous, is that we make all decisions are made on a group level as far as how the group is to be run and what we're going to do and how we try to bring people in and become more inclusive. And so it's a very important tradition. It gives us the basis on which we make our decisions as a group. And then when we get to tradition 3, which we'll look at next week, it kind of follows. And the traditions, much like the steps, kind of follow along, and each one builds upon the one before, so that it becomes a solid set of principles by which we operate our groups. So with that, we'll get to the study. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. And now it's time for our weekly installment of That Ain't in the Big Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as it's described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. What follows is one of the things we often hear, along with what the Big Book has to say on the subject. And one of the things we hear a lot is there are no musts in the program. Lisa, can you come on in and tell us what it says on page 82 in paragraph 3?
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, I'm an alcoholic. Certainly, he must keep sober, for there will be no home if he doesn't.
Thank you.
Okay. As we study, please make use of pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you could share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book Study Guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight, we're going to start our recap on page XVII, which will be read tonight by Linda, followed by our study portion read by Larry.
After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back at our study portion that Larry reads. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is we're going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comments, questions, and observations based on the part that was just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes, and at the 5-minute mark you may hear a timer beep to let you know that your time is finished.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, like with your sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut the conversation short and send the buzzard snipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group. And how we arrived at this point. Terry, do you want me to take it or do you want it?
No, you take it.
Okay. We are just entering our 5th year. We're a couple of months into our 5th year of this study. And we start on the title page where we find our first promise, the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. And through this study, we read each page line by line, through the preface, through the forewords, the doctor's opinion, and all the way up to page 164. And then we also read Dr. Bob's Nightmare and the traditions. And then our final week, which we're now extending the traditions to be 3 weeks rather than 2 weeks because there's so much content there. So we're now going to be a 96-week study. And this week we are on week 4, so we're still pretty much close to the beginning. And we will be finishing up the foreword to the 2nd edition today.
Why, thank you. Before we start the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so we could put it onto our website.
And onto our YouTube channel. So tonight our recap will be read by Linda. Come on in, Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda. I'm an alcoholic. And this is page XV11. It was now time the struggling groups thought to place their message and unique experience before the world. This determination bore fruit in the spring of 1939 by the publication of this volume. The membership had then reached about 100 men and women. The fledgling society, which had been nameless, now began to be called Alcoholics Anonymous. From the title of this own book, the flying blind period ended, and AA entered a new phase of its pioneering time. With the appearance of the new book, a great deal began to happen. Dr. Harry Emerson Foslick, the noted clergyman, reviewed it with approval. In the fall of 1939, the Fulton Owsler, then the editor of Liberty, printed a piece in his magazine called Alcoholics and God. This brought a rush of 800 frantic inquiries into the little New York office, which meanwhile had been established. Each inquiry was painstakingly answered. Pamphlets and books were sent out. Businessmen traveling out of existing groups were referred to these prospective newcomers. New groups started up, and it was found, to the astonishment of everyone, that AA's message could be transmitted in the mail as well as by word of mouth. By the end of 1939, it was estimated that 800 alcoholics were on their way to recovery. In the spring of 1940, John D. Rockefeller Jr. gave a dinner for many of his friends, to which he invited AA members to tell their stories. News of this got on the world wires. Inquiries poured in again, and many people went to the bookstores to get the book, Alcoholics Anonymous. By March 1941, the members had shot up to 2,000. Then Jack Alexander wrote an article in the Saturday Evening Post and placed such a compelling picture of AA before the general public that alcoholics in need of help really divulged us. And by the close of 1941, AA numbered 8,000 members, and the mushrooming progress was in full swing. AA had become a national institution. Our society then entered a fearsome and exciting adolescence period. The test that it faced was this: could these large numbers of erstwhile erratic alcoholics successfully meet and work together? Would there be quarrels over membership, leadership, and money? Would there be strivings for power and prestige? Would there be schisms which would split AA apart? Soon AA was beset by these very problems on every side in every group. But out of this frightening and at first disrupting experience, the conviction grew that AAs had to hang together or die separately. We had to unify our fellowship or pass off the scene. As we discovered the principles by which the individual alcoholic could live, so we had to evolve principles by which the AA groups and AA as a whole could survive and function effectively. It was thought that no alcoholic man or woman could be excluded from our society, that our leaders might serve but never govern, that each group was to be autonomous and there was to be no professional class of therapy. There were to be no fees or dues. Our expenses were to be met by our own voluntary contributions. There was to be the least possible organization, even in our service centers. Our public relations were to be based upon attraction rather than promotion. And it was decided that all members ought to be anonymous at the level of press, radio, TV, and films. And in no circumstances should we give endorsements, make alliances, or enter public controversy. This was the substance of AA's 12 traditions, which are stated in full on page 561 of this book. Though none of these principles had the force of rules or laws, they had become so widely accepted, and by 1950 that they were confirmed by a first international conference held at Cleveland. Today, the remarkable unity of AA is one of the greatest assets that our society has.
Thank you, Linda. And before Larry comes in with our study this week, I did go over this with him before. We will be finishing up the foreword to the second edition. Then we will also be reading the foreword to the third edition and the foreword to the fourth edition. So for those answer readers, keep your hands up. Larry's going to come in and read the end of the forward to the second edition, then we will do the questions for that section. Then he will read the forward to the third edition, then we'll do the questions for that part, then we'll do the forward to the fourth edition and the questions for that part. Then we'll open up for sharing. So Larry, come on in and finish up the second edition, the forward to the second edition, please, on page XIX.
Hello, I'm Larry and I'm an alcoholic. While the internal difficulties of our adolescent period were being ironed out, public acceptance of AA grew by leaps and bounds. For this, there were two principal reasons: the large numbers of recoveries and reunited homes. These made their impressions everywhere. Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered after about sobered up after some relapses, and among the remainder, those who stayed on with AA showed improvement. Other thousands came to a few AA meetings and at first decided they didn't want the program, but great numbers of these, about 2 out of 3, began to return as time passed. Another reason for the wide acceptance of AA was the ministration of friends. Friends in medicine, religion, and the press, together with the innumerable others who became our able and persistent advocates. Without such support, AA could have made only the slowest progress. Some of the recommendations of AA's early medical and religious friends will be found further in this book. Alcoholics Anonymous is not a religious organization. Neither does AA take any particular medical point of view, though we cooperate widely with the men of medicine as well as with the men of religion. Alcohol being no respecter of persons, we are all accurate cross-section of America, and in distant lands, the same democratic evening up process is now going on. By personal religious affiliation, we conclude Catholics, Protestants, Jews, Hindus, and a sprinkling of Muslims and Buddhists. More than 15% of us are women. At present, our membership is pyramiding at the rate of about 20% a year. So far, upon the total problem of several million actual and potential alcoholics in the world, we have made only a scratch. In all probability, we shall never be able to touch more than a fair fraction of the alcoholic problem in all its ramifications. Upon therapy for the alcoholic himself, we surely have no monopoly. Yet, it is our great hope that all those who have as yet found no answer may begin to find one in the pages of this book, and will presently join us on the high road to a new freedom.
Thank you. So we will start out with our questions for this portion. Our batting order will be Kenny, Art, Billy, William, and Linda, and then we'll keep that same order when we go into the next section. So Kenny, our first question, and it's a two-part question, and go ahead and unmute yourselves if you are an answer reader. Kenny, coming to you. A, what was happening as we were learning how to overcome our internal difficulties? And B, did the public come to accept AA?
While the internal difficulties of our adolescent period were being ironed out, public acceptance of AA grew by leaps and bounds.
Thank you. And Art, what were the two main reasons for public acceptance?
I'm sorry, but I don't see where you are.
The very top of page XX. For this, there were two.
I don't see it.
Okay, let me go on to Billy, and we're at the end of this, forward to the second edition. Billy, what were the two main reasons for public acceptance?
For this, there were two principal reasons: the large number of recoveries and reunited homes.
Thank you. And William, were people impressed?
These made their impression everywhere.
Thank you.
Of alcoholism.
Oh, that's it. And Linda, as a general statement, what percentage of alcoholics who were willing to try the program or found sobriety?
Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained it that way. 25% sobered up after some relapses, and among the remainder, those who stayed on with AA showed improvement.
And Terry, you got a comment?
Yes, I was muted. Are we seeing that level of success today? Why not?
And Kenny, back to you. What did thousands of alcoholics do?
Other thousands came to a few AA meetings and at first decided they didn't want the program.
Thank you. Art, what did great numbers of these folks finally do?
But great numbers of these, about 2 out of 3, began to return as time passed.
Thank you. Billy, what was another reason for the acceptance of AA?
Another reason for the wide acceptance of AA was the ministrations of friends in medicine, religion, and the press, together with innumerable others who became our able and persistent advocates.
Thank you. And William, was this support important to the early growth of AA?
Without such support, AA could have made only the slowest progress.
Thank you. Absolutely. And Linda, where can we find some of the recommendations made by the early supporters of AA?
Is it without such support?
Next sentence, some of the.
Some of the recommendation of AA's early medical and religious friends will be found further on in this book.
Thank you. Kenny, back to you. Is Alcoholics Anonymous a religious movement?
Alcoholics Anonymous is not a religious organization.
Thank you. And Art, a two-part question. A, does AA have a particular point of view? And B, with which two professional fields does AA cooperate?
Neither does AA take any particular medical point of view, though we cooperate widely with the men of medicine as well as with the men of religion.
Thank you. And Billy, coming back to you, is alcoholism more prevalent in particular segments of society, origins, cultures, etc.?
Alcohol being no respecter of persons, we are an accurate cross-section of America and in distant lands. The same democratic evening process is now going on.
Thank you. And William, what religious affiliations find AA acceptable?
By personal religion affiliation, we include Catholics, Protestant, Jewish, Hindu, and a sprinkle of Muslim and Buddhists.
Thank you so much. And Linda, do women make up a reasonable percentage of the AA membership?
More than 15% of us are women.
Thank you. Kenny, back to you. At what rate is AA growing?
And our present membership is pyramiding at the rate of about 20% a year.
Terry, you're muted.
Okay, a comment. Here we will find discrepancies ranging from 7% to 20%.
Thank you. And Art, has AA made a significant impact on the many alcoholics in our world?
So far, upon the total problem of several million actual and potential alcoholics in the world, we have made only a scratch.
Thank you. And Billy, does AA hope someday to completely solve the alcoholic problem?
In all probability, we shall never be able to touch more than a fair fraction of the alcohol problems in all its ramifications.
Thank you so much. And William, does AA claim to have the only solution for alcoholism?
Church more than a frictional force. Alcoholic problem is all ramification. Upon therapy for alcoholism himself, we surely have no monopoly.
Thank you. And Linda, a three-part question. A, what is the great hope of Alcoholics Anonymous? B, where is this hope to be found? And C, they will then do what?
Yet it is our great hope that all those who have, it is our great hope that all those who have as yet found no answer may begin to find one in the pages of this book and will presently join us on the high road to a new freedom.
Thank you. And Larry, please come in and read the forward to the third edition now.
Forward to the third edition. By March 1976, when this edition went to the printer, the total worldwide membership of Alcoholics Anonymous was conservatively estimated at more than 1 million, with almost 28,000 groups meeting in over 90 countries. Surveys of groups in the United States and Canada indicate that AA is reaching out not only to more and more people, but to a wider and wider range. Women are now make up more than 1/4 of the membership. Among newer members, the proportion is nearly 1/3. 7% of AAs surveyed are less than 30 years of age. Among them, many in their teens. The basic principles of AA program, it appears, hold good for individuals with many different lifestyles. Just as the program has brought recovery to those of many different nationalities, the 12 steps that summarize the program may be called Los Dos Pasos in one country, Las 12 Estables in another, but they trace exactly the same path to recovery that was blazed by the earliest members of Alcoholics Anonymous. In spite of the great increase in the size and the span of this fellowship and its core, it remains simple and personal. Each day, somewhere in the world, recovery begins when one alcoholic talks with another alcoholic, sharing experience, strength, and hope.
Thank you. And going back to the top of that page, and Kenny, we are with you. We are starting out with you again. And you will have a three-part question. A, when was the third edition first printed? B, how many members were estimated? And C, how many groups were estimated?
By March 1976, when this edition went to the printer, the total worldwide membership of Alcoholics Anonymous was conservatively estimated at more than 1 million, with almost 28,000 groups meeting in over 90 countries.
Thank you. And Art, was AA reaching more and a wider range of alcoholics?
Surveys of groups in the United States and Canada indicate that AA is reaching out not only to more and more people, but to a wider and wider range.
Thank you. And Billy, was the number of women members increasing?
Women now make up more than 1/4 of the membership. Among new members, the proportion is nearly 1/3.
Thank you. And William, was AA reaching younger alcoholics?
Several percent of AA surveyed are less than 30 years of age. Among them, many in their teens.
Thank you. And Linda, was AA finding that the program was effective for all alcoholics, regardless of anything and everything?
The basic principles of the AA program, it appears, hold good for individuals with many different lifestyles, just as the program has brought recovery to those of many different nationalities.
Thank you. And back to you, Kenny. Was the program of AA finding its way into distant lands and being translated into different languages?
The 12 steps that surmise the program may be called Los Dos Paso in one country and Les Daos Estapa in another. But they trace exactly the same path to recovery that was blazed by the earliest members of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Thank you. And Art, has the growth of the fellowship changed the simplicity of the program?
In spite of the great increase in the size and the span of this fellowship, as its core, it remains simple and personal.
Thank you. And Billy, wrapping up this section, what is the program of Alcoholics Anonymous really about?
Each day, somewhere in the world, recovery begins when one alcoholic talks with another alcoholic, sharing experience, strength, and hope.
Thank you. And Larry, come on in with the forward to the 4th edition, please.
I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic. This is the forward to the 4th edition. This 4th edition of Alcoholics Anonymous came off press in November 2001. At the start of a new millennium, since the 3rd edition was published in 1976, worldwide membership of AA has just about doubled to an estimated 2 million or more, with nearly 108,000 groups meeting in approximately 150 countries around the world. I should say 100,800.
Yep.
Yeah. Literature has played a major role in AA's growth, and a striking phenomenon of the past quarter century has been the explosion of translations of our basic literature into many languages and dialects. In country after country where the AA seed was planted, it has taken root, slowly at first, then growing by leaps and bounds when literature has become available. Currently, Alcoholics Anonymous has been translated into 43 languages. As the message of recovery has reached larger numbers of people, it has also touched the lives of a vastly greater variety of suffering alcoholics. When the phrase, "we are people who normally would not mix," page 17 of this book, was written in 1939, it referred to a fellowship composed largely of men and a few women with quite similar social, ethnic, and economical backgrounds, like so much of AA's basic text. Those words have proved to be far more visionary than the founding members could ever have imagined. The stories added to this edition represent a membership whose characteristics of age, gender, race, and culture have widened and have deepened to encompass virtually everyone, the first 100 members could have hoped to reach. While our literature has preserved the integrity of the AA message, sweeping changes in society as a whole are reflected in new customs and practices within the fellowship. Taking advantage of technological advances, for example, AA members with computers can participate in meetings online, sharing with fellow alcoholics across the country or around the world. In any meeting anywhere, AA sharing experience, strength, and hope with each other in order to stay sober and help other alcoholics. Modem to modem or face to face, AA speak the language of the heart in all its power and simplicity.
Thank you, Larry, for all your service and your reading this evening. And William, we're going to start this section out with you. When was the 4th edition first published?
This 4th edition of Alcoholics Anonymous came off the press in November 2001 at the start of the new millennium.
Thank you. Linda, you get a 5-part question. A, when was the 3rd edition first published? B, what happened to the membership? C, what was the membership estimated to be in 2001? And D, how many groups were there? And E, in how many countries could AA be found?
Since the 3rd edition was published in 1976, worldwide membership of AA has just about doubled to an estimated 2 million or more, with nearly 100,800 groups meeting in approximately 150 countries around the world.
Thank you. And Kenny, a 2-part question for you. A, what has played a major role in our growth? B, what striking phenomenon had occurred over that 25-year period?
Literature has played a major role in AA's growth, and a striking phenomenon of the past quarter century has been the explosion of translation of our basic literature into many languages and dialects.
Thank you. And Art, when an AA seed was planted, what happened?
In country after country where the AA seed was planted, it has taken root, slowly at first, then growing by leaps and bounds, when literature has become available.
Thank you. Billy, how many translations of the Big Book were there in 2001?
Currently, Alcoholics Anonymous has been translated into 43 languages.
As of January 2023, our Big Book has been translated into 72 languages and counting, and continues to reach millions of people in approximately 180 countries, continuing to help suffering alcoholics.
Thank you. And William, what has been the result of reaching a greater number of people?
As these messages of recovery have reached large numbers of people, it has been also touched the lives of vastly greater variety of suffering alcoholics.
Not only has our message helped a greater variety of suffering alcoholics around the world, but because of our Al-Anon family groups, our message has helped many families, alcoholics as well.
Thank you. And Linda, in 1939, who did the phrase, "We are people who normally would not mix," refer to?
When the phrase "we are people who normally would not mix," page 17 of this book, was written in 1939, it referred to a fellowship composed largely of men and a few women with quite similar social, ethnic, and economic backgrounds.
Today's fellowship includes all nationalities, religions, sexuality, teen and children alcoholics, and people of all social, economic backgrounds.
Thank you. And Kenny, so much of our basic text, what have these words proved to be?
Like so much of AA's basic text, those words have proved to be far more visionary than the founding members could have ever imagined.
Absolutely. And Art, what do the stories added to this edition represent?
The stories added to this edition represent a membership whose characteristics of age, gender, race, and culture have widened and have deepened to encompass virtually everyone the first 100 members could have hoped to reach.
Thank you. And Billy, a two-part question. What has our literature accomplished, and how are the sweeping changes in our society reflected?
While our literature has preserved the integrity of the AA message, sweeping changes in society as a whole are reflected in new customs and practices within the fellowship.
Thank you. William, how are some of us taking advantage of technological advances?
Taking advantage of technological advantage, for example, AA members with, AA's members with computers can participate in meetings online, sharing with fellow alcoholics across the country or around the world.
And coming in with another comment. Some editions contain the next sentence, which reads, fundamentally, though, the difference between an electronic meeting and a home group around the corner is only one of format.
And that's what we find here. Linda, what is the difference between online meetings and home group meetings?
In any meeting anywhere, AA shared experience, strength, and hope with each other in order to stay sober and help other alcoholics.
Thank you. And Kenny, you get our last question, and it's a two-part question. A, in any meeting anywhere, what language are we to use? And B, what is the advantage of the language of the heart?
Modem to modem or face to face, AA speaks the language of the heart in all its power and simplicity.
Okay, I'm going to close with a couple comments here. At the printing of the 4th edition, modem to modem referred mainly to chat rooms in AOL or email groups. Today, as a result of COVID-19, we also have other platforms such as Skype, Zoom, and other online resources which can be used to carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. While we live in an age where so many of us are on camera, we ask everyone to practice principles before personality and to protect each other's anonymity. Today, while on Zoom, remember that instead of joining together at a meeting place, we are actually joining together in each other's homes.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you, everyone. And that last comment is so important because, when I first came in, I wasn't going to invite people into my home. But, in a sense, that's what we do now with our Zoom meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have experience with the portions of the book that we just read, please feel free to share. And be mindful of your time and that others may have their hands raised and are waiting to share. And a friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. And we're now open for comments, questions, observations, and spiritual experiences based on what was just read. So hi, Billy.
Okay, now that I'm unmuted. Hi, everybody. I'm an alcoholic. Name's Billy. What was it? 25, 30, this last part, the modem to modem. Sorry, I agreed out loud with that because I met Trish, 25 years ago or more. Did we figure that date out?
Nope.
No.
89-ish.
Okay, so but Trish and I were in one of those original email groups that a third friend who lives in Arkansas connected us to each other in. And that has just changed my life phenomenally because it's allowed me to travel and stay with sober people all around this country. And there's some learning that goes with that too. Something that when I first started going to Akron with all of these strangers out there, meeting up with them for the very first time face to face, after we'd been in groups on AOL and in our email group and a few others before AOL. Oh my. There was one called Lamplighters, another one called Sisters in Sobriety, and I'll tell you, that gave you a tough skin real quick. But yeah, I was going through a really miserable divorce and a bloodbath of a custody issue, and I didn't feel safe going to meetings because my ex on occasion would go to meetings and his behaviors had been proven to be unsafe for me and the kids. So my sponsor said, I hear they got meetings on the internet. I said, what? And I had to contact AOL and get a floppy disk because that was, my computer didn't have, it took the 5 1/4 inch square floppy disks. Okay, some of you are as old as me and remember those suckers. See, AOL had the little 3 1/2 inch ones. Okay, the little hard squares. My computer was an IBM 8088. It didn't have a 3-inch disk drive and was never gonna. But I got on to AOL and I met this crazy bunch of people with crazy names, all sober, and a few hacker pukes as well that would come into the rooms and be naughty. And on my travels down to Tennessee and Arkansas this year, we were reminiscing, and guess what? I found out some of those old AOLers are on Facebook. They have a group. Sue told me that. So I'm on that group now. I don't see a lot of action, but who knew they'd all still be around? And the Zoom thing. I was Zooming for about a year before COVID hit. Somebody in our local groups created a Zoom group for our local shut-ins that couldn't get to meetings. So every Sunday night at 6 o'clock, we Zoomed for our shut-ins. So, and that was going on, I don't know, a couple of years before COVID. So not only was I Zooming, I was also teaching Zoom school, that's what we called it, to everybody that had to learn it fast. And I got to come to Tennessee this year to meet a bunch of you. So how cool is that? That's it.
Thanks, Billy. And it was good to see you. And so many others. And next year I hope we get to see some more of you. William, come on in.
My name is William Alcoholic. Thank you so much, Chris. Whenever you said you would then think about the visionary, and I thought about what we just read about the visionary of people, pioneer people who didn't realize, didn't visualize what we have today. But one thing I'm glad I seen it here. I had a friend of mine told me last night that some kid, 15 years old, at a meeting, he didn't think he's supposed to be there. And when I said, he said he's an alcoholic, he knows that. So now I have some facts that I can show him that teenagers do come, But whenever we read this literature, right, and I see like starting from the white light experience that Bill had and the struggle of humanists that they had trying to put to get us to where we are today. I get a chance to draw the dots and paint a picture in my head how it was. So and then another thing I get a chance to see my struggle. And whenever they was talking about that 25%, I was part of the 25% that went back out because I say because I was a practical person. If you told me I had so much stuff going on inside of me that if you told me some and I said I know, and I had too much of pride and too much of fear to let you know and let you inside of me know. But once I went back out there and I began to see that alcoholism was real, because I didn't think it was a disease, and then I picked up and then I'd be going more and more and more. Then I said, oh, that's what they talk about. So I came in here and I sit down. And I came around 1989, 1992 January. I came in and sit down until I could do think in these meetings and go home and go back to work. But I love the history, and I love to see Bob the struggle. Whenever it come up stuff like this, and Bill and Bob, then when they was talking about the type of people that they would only hear then and they didn't want any women, they struggled with having women here because they didn't have the type of personality. It was only business people and things like that. And they had tapped into something, I guess, and some of the benefactors, people that helped. And a lot of times when they read, we don't understand, we don't hear them talk about Lois. Well, when Bill was struggling and he went back to Dr. Sitwood, and Lois told Bill, she was so happy that he was sober. Bill said, I can't help nobody. And she was so happy that he was sober. And then Dr. Sitwood telling what he said, being the Rockefeller on and on and on. And one of the things that happened that they say really shot it up was the literature. And that's what made me feel comfortable I was here, because I seen people doing this and people doing that, and I felt uneasy about myself. And I as I began to read the literature, I began to see, I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and everybody else is right where they're supposed to be. And if I accept that, I could be a happy camper, right here in my recovery process. So definitely, I get very excited whenever the literature is read because I get a chance to see it for what it is, and not what your recovery may be, what the next one recovery may be, so it makes me here. And the last thing that it is, and then you can see the process of Bill getting sober over the years from the beginning, the white light experience, you see the humanists come back in, and then they found out they had some good, then they started Al-Anon. Now, I can guarantee it's a 12-step program for almost every human issue that it is out there today. And then if you go back and look at whenever he wrote the 12 and 12, he said we could say the potential alcoholic with the spiritual program. Somebody with a job, a house, and 2 cars in the garage. By telling our story to them. And definitely that's what happened to me when I was telling the stories to me. Because if I had to read it and I had to dissect it myself when I first got here, I tell you, I used to go to sleep. I started reading the big book. I tell my sponsor, I said, I can't sleep at night. My sponsor said, read the big book. As soon as I started reading the big book, I go to sleep. It's different today. I get excited when I begin to see how God had all this plan beyond their wildest dream. You know what I mean? And that to come in and grow and thing. And this is the last one I'm going to talk about. And they talk about the hard love to love. It's a good place to be, man. Any place I go into a meeting, it's that love that I have for another alcoholic because I know what it is to suffer from alcoholism. I don't care what you look like or where you came from, but when you start talking about alcoholism, man, I have that unconditional love to do that. And when I don't have that, I ask God to forgive me for my critical thinking or negative thinking so I can stay
Thank you, William. Hi, Larry. Come on in.
Hey, I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic. You know, as I was reading some of that, I was particularly drawn to the part that when it was talking about, I think 7% was in the third edition. 7% were teens. They thought, that was the beginning. That was the beginning of where alcoholics, began to reach the younger crowd. And I'm just kind of going on. I think somewhere in the 1980s, Alateen and stuff was created by the national alcoholics, on the national level, and they saw the potential of how important it was to really explore the getting young people into and getting them sober young, and I look back at those people that I know that did get sober young at a young age, at in their 20s, and I know several, and have risen and grown to been major contributors to Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's I'm not saying that, and I just wish that I could have been one of those. I wasn't. I was too stubborn. I was too set in my ways. I was over 50 years old before I even attempted the thought that maybe I should get sober. And but when I did, when I got into these rooms at 54 years old, I stayed. I had found the answer, and I didn't just go back out. I stayed. When I found the answer, I stayed. But man, the years I wasted, and I'm so glad that alcoholics are finding it at a young age and not wasting their lives. And I love to go into meetings and look around and see how many young people I could see sitting around. It's just, it's a particular joy for me to see a young person getting sober and saving not only their life, but maybe all the lives that are around it. That's all I got.
Thanks, Larry. Who's next? Hi, Terry.
Hi, I'm Terry, recovered alcoholics, aka pickle chips. I want to touch a little bit on what Larry said too about having this in the book for young people to read and see that they are welcome. Because there was a time, my older son was 16 when he was a heroin addict, and after his rehab, they did send them to NA, but he stopped using drugs and started using alcohol. So by the time he was like 18, he was in a sober living home and going to these meetings and kind couple of the older gentlemen, old timers, told these guys from the recovery home that they needed to go back out there and do more experimenting because they couldn't be alcoholics at 18 years old. Well, I guarantee my son was an alcoholic at 18 years old. Enough so that he wanted to be in a sober living environment where he felt safe. And these old guys are saying, nah, come on back. I've spilled more beers than you've had, or some stupid crap like that. Anyway, so I like to see it in writing that all are welcome. Everybody's welcome. You know, I got sober in 1997 and met a couple of gals that were trans, they call them today, and they didn't feel that they could go to regular AA meetings. And I just didn't understand it. I know the book says it doesn't matter what anything, social, sexual, economic, whatever, we're all welcome. And so they formed their own meeting, and you know, however you got to do it. But I'm just glad everybody is welcome. I was at a meeting once, my beach meeting, and somebody came along that was a homeless guy, obviously very drunk, and he sat down with us and started asking questions. You know, he wanted to know how we were doing this thing. And somebody actually asked him to leave because he was eating the food. We used to bring a bunch of food somebody would cook. And somebody asked him to leave. And I don't know. I got so upset with that and pleaded with him to stay, and I made him a plate. And, you know, he never came back. I wouldn't either if I heard, you know, statements like that. So I think it's good for everybody to read this and understand that we're all welcome here, no matter what. You know, I always welcome young women particularly and praise them that they don't have to be a drunk mommy, because I was. And I can't change it now. I can't change the past. But I love to see the young women coming in that don't have to do that and don't have to raise their kids with the help of the bottle. So anyway, that's what I got. Thank you so much. It was a good reading today.
Thanks, Terry. Hi, Linda.
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm an alcoholic. You know, I like the foreword. I've read it before, but it gives you the whole history of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's even good for people that are first coming in, so they can understand the history of Alcoholics Anonymous and why we do the things we do and why we have the traditions, how important they are. They are essential. This program would have fell apart a long time ago if it wasn't for the traditions. If you start reading the stories and you read the traditions, you know, Dr. Bob, he had a great idea, you know, this light bulb, and no, we can do this and we can do that. And he took it back to the group and they were like, nope, you know, and everything is with the group conscious, you know. My meeting, which is in person, is very small, very, very small, you know, but we still have business meetings. We have a group conscious, and whatever the group conscious wants, I do, as far as with the treasurer. Because I told him, I said, it ain't about me. I said, it's the group conscious. I said, so what do y'all want to do? You know, and that's how it is. You know, there's no big I's and there's no little U's. I love this program because well, it gave me recovery, you know, give me a new life, you know, a second lease on life. And one thing I can say is that at this point in my recovery, you know, I've learned to have patience and tolerance, you know, even with newcomers. When you see them come in the rooms and they're doing weird stuff or they're being a disturbance. There was one lady, she was being a real, and I'll say the word, she was being a real wise ass. And she opened up some wrapping paper and she took marijuana and she was rolling up a joint. And this guy told her, this is before COVID, when this meeting used to be really big with a lot of these people from the halfway house. And he told her, he said, you can do it outside. He said, but not in here. He said, not in here. And he got right up in her face, this big, tall guy. He said, and you've done this before, haven't you? He said, I'll let you stay this time. He said, but the next time, I'm telling you to get out. And we have to respect the places that we're in, If it's a church, if it's a treatment center, whatever, you can't bring stuff in there, But you always got these knuckleheads that come into the rooms. There was a guy in the room, I came into the meeting, and he was taking a picture of the traditions and this and that. And I said, wait, I said, put that down. You can't film anything in here. Well, I'm giving it to my sponsor. I said, no, you don't give anything to your sponsor. I said, you don't do that in this meeting. And I had to tell the chairperson, I said, you have to be proactive and, tell people not to do that. He also, when he did it, there was a lady sitting there and his camera went past her. How does he know she wants her anonymity broken like that? We have to be really careful. We have to really be careful. I remember when I was in the midnight group, they said, oh, you can join our Facebook page. I wish I would join somebody's Facebook page. I'm not breaking my anonymity. I am not. If you want to, that's your business. That is on you. That's the individual, but I'm not. Facebook pages get hacked all the time, all the time. You got very mischievous people, malicious people. You see there's bombers, so what do you think they'll do to you on Facebook? So no, and it's certain things, even though AA has evolved, we still maintain our anonymity. We still, if I don't want to be taped, then I have to say it, or I have to just not share. If that's what the group does, that's what the group does. I have a choice. But when I first came here, I was told that they do tape. They told me when I first came in, so it's not like they're breaking my anonymity. It's whether you want to be, you share or not. But they did give me the option of telling me. And then one time I did go on the YouTube channel and I listened to myself. I said, oh, I sound like that. And I'm just grateful for this program, because no matter what happens, through all the test of time AA stands, through COVID. And there was one meeting that I went to on the phone. It was a meeting called Good Morning God. And they said, but we've been around way long before, COVID. So it was a meeting that was convenient for people that were in remote places and people that were disabled that couldn't get to meetings, or people with little kids that couldn't get to meetings. I dragged my 2 sons with me to meetings. People didn't have a problem because they weren't running all over the place. They were sitting there and they were quiet, and that was it. And I had to bring them with me to meetings. If I didn't, I would have gotten in trouble. I can't leave them home, So it was a thing where in these meetings, we have to show patience and tolerance to people because everybody has different needs, and thank God for the traditions, thank God because, it was a time when people of color, we were not let in certain meetings. There was a meeting where it's Joe McQueen and Joe Q, because it's the Joe and Charlie tapes, and one of them is an African-American, and it was Joe, and everybody had this big controversy. Is it going to work? Yeah, it worked. Because they were given the message of AA. And people were like, oh, Joe and Charlie, they were just up in arms about it. So through the test of time, through the test of people being, what you might say, intolerant of different people that don't look like them, AA still overcame. AA put all that, it shut all that down. We have all kinds of people coming to the rooms. That story of that guy being real rebellious. And then him getting that epiphany in the hotel. They said that man got sober and he went on to open up other meetings. So through the test of time, people always try to test us. Things always try to test us. But AA stands. It's not going anywhere. It's 90 years old. 90 years old. If I live 10 more years, it'll be 100 years. And I'm just so grateful for this program. I love this program. And like I said, I've learned patience and I've learned tolerance. I've learned to love myself. I've learned to love myself, and I've learned to love other people. I've learned not to have an evil tongue. I've learned, it's like my sponsor said, if you're right, shut up. If you're wrong, shut up. Just shut up. And I like when she said that, and when I had a problem with any tradition or how a meeting was being run, or if it was a particular person in the meeting, You know, my sponsor said, go back to the step. She said, because the problem's not them, the problem is you. She said, why you don't like someone? She said, why? You tell me why. She said, you tell me why. Did they reject you? Did they put you in your place? Do they have something that you don't have? Peace and happiness, you know? Or are you overweight and are you overweight and they're underweight and they have a nice shape? What is it? You know, what is it? My sponsor and I had to do a 4th step on that, you know? And these steps keep me focused. They keep me respectful towards other people. And it keeps me patient and tolerant. And it keeps me staying in service. You know, it's like I told one person, one newcomer, I said, I can't judge you. How can I judge you? How can I judge you? Whether I did the same thing or not, I can't judge no one. You know, and I'm grateful for that. You know, in this meeting, they talk about the 4th step and the 4 ethical standards. And I remember Jamie said it. He said, I'll never tell what an alcoholic says in their 4th step because alcoholics lie, you know? And there's a lot of things you learn. One lady in here was sharing about how she's dealing with a parent. She's co-parenting, and she said it's the sick man's prayer and forgiveness. Wow, that's deep. You know, so this is what I like about this program. I learn. I sit here and I listen and I learn. And my program has given me a life. It has taught me to grow up. It has taught me to do things. It has taught me to go back to school to get my degrees. You know, didn't like my apartment, moved from that apartment. You know, don't like the way this and that is going. Well, then there was a solution to it. You know, and this program is just like so powerful. It is so powerful, and I just love it. You know, and I'm just grateful to be sober. I really am. And right now at this point in my sobriety, 36 years sober, it's not even about me no more. It is about helping people that are coming in. That's what I am responsible for now. It is not even about me anymore because I've been here this long. So how am I going to sit here and not help another individual, not do service? That's crazy. No, that's being selfish. You know, I have to give back, and I have to give back unconditionally and until I am tired. It says even go to the most sordid places to seek out an alcoholic. And I've done that too, you know, with another alcoholic, but I've done that, you know, because it is for me about saving lives. And that's what this program is about. It's not about any other BS. It's about saving lives and us staying sober, you know, and I'm just so grateful today I can be a trusted, humble servant for my God. You know, and if this is what it is, carrying the message, then that's what I'm going to keep doing, you know, regardless. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. And I am going to jump in. I don't see any other hands up, so I will jump in for a little bit. I really love, I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic, and I really love going through the forwards and learning the history of where we came from and how these traditions came to be. And you know, the second or third sentence of the study tonight, what were the 2 main reasons for public acceptance? The large numbers of recovery and reunited homes. And these made their impressions everywhere. And you know, I've seen that in these rooms. I've seen the large number of recoveries. I've seen the reunited homes. I've seen my home reunited. You know, there wasn't divorce. I didn't have a husband when I came in. I didn't have kids, but I was so estranged from my family, I wasn't really talking to them. But through the program, I was able to get a new perspective and realize they weren't as bad as I thought. And then it talks about the friends in medicine, religion, and the press, and that we'll hear about them a little bit later on in the book. But, you know, we've actually heard about them already in last week's study. We talked about Dr. Henry Emerson and John D. Rockefeller and Jack Alexander and those who helped us get jump-started with what they did. And they were the beginning of our friends. And, yeah, there's other friends that we're going to learn about through the next couple of weeks of studies. We'll meet Dr. Silkworth next week, and you know, he's probably one of our bigger medical friends. But you know, it's the recommendation in the early days of the medical friends and the religious friends and the press that helped the growth of AA. You know, I was one of those teens who came in. I was 19 when I came into the rooms, and I don't say that to say, look at me, I got in earlier than other people. I say that because that's when my ears were opened by the God of my understanding to come in and hear this message. But I struggled with coming in earlier because I didn't have the story that a lot of other people did. And I almost went back out because of it. It's like, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I didn't do that. But I still knew I needed to be here. And I qualified to be here. And that kept me coming back. And back then, from my very first meeting all the way up to the meetings I go to today, it's the ending of the Forward to the Third Edition. Every day, somewhere in the world, recovery begins when one alcoholic talks with another, sharing experience, strength, and hope. And I had a friend of mine doing that months before I walked into my first meeting. And there are people that I've been talking to for years sharing the message. And planting the seed, watering the seed, weeding around the seed, and praying that someday that she'll get it. I don't know. That's between her and her God. But I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep sharing my story with her. I'm going to keep sharing the program of AA with her. And hopefully she'll find her way into the room without bringing the bottle in with her. And, when COVID hit, and we've talked about this, I think each time we come to this section, AA didn't quit. AA found a way. And then it tells us at the end of the reading tonight, in any meeting, anywhere, AA share experience, strength, and hope with each other in order to stay sober and help other alcoholics. That doesn't matter if it's a face-to-face meeting, an email group, a Zoom meeting, a telephone group. We share our experience, strength, and hope. There are still people around here where I live. Zoom isn't a real meeting. I'm not going to a Zoom meeting. I never did. I'm never going to. It's like, well, that's your loss. Because I was in such a slump when COVID hit that COVID and Zoom jump-started my program again and got me back into life. Because of speaking the language of the heart and planting seeds. All I can do when I'm talking with somebody is share my story and plant seeds and hope that they're going to listen and hope that their God will open their eyes to hear what it is my God wants me to tell. It's not about me. I don't have a great, wonderful story. I don't always have great and wonderful patience either. And I know that. But, I keep trying. And I keep sharing that experience, using that language of the heart. And that's how we reach other people, and that's how we reach each other. I remember when I first was coming in, a speaker that I heard was talking about being in the group of the people who brought the first meetings into Russia. And that was huge back then. And feeling like, well, I wasn't part of that group, but hearing her story and what she experienced really gave me an appreciation early on for how important it is to carry our message to anyone who's willing to listen to it, anyone who wants to hear it, but most importantly, anyone who's willing to do the work so that they can get sober. And I am going to stop. Serena, come on.
Hi, Serena, alcoholic, and yeah, you know what? Oh my God, I just want to say thank you so much. I am extremely tired. I'm trying not to doze off during this fantastic study, so I'm so sorry if that looked disrespectful. I'm just so tired, and it's wonderful to learn all of this. But I wanted to thank, I'm not supposed to crosstalk, but I appreciate people talking about the mama thing. I heard you, girl. Thank you. Because I've been able to get a couple months under my belt, but now I kind of have to be a mom to. I've got a 14-year-old, and you know, that's an added big thing. Okay, you got your sobriety going, your meetings and everything, and oh my God, I'm also a mother, and that's coming. I think it's coming. It's coming, kind of coming naturally. I love being a mother. I wanted this kid very badly, but oh my God, I'm tired. Oh my God, I'm tired. And thank you for that. I'm enjoying that I get to be a good mama. I'm enjoying it. Really, I am. And then talking about service, I appreciate that, because you know what? 60 days. Oh my God. I feel like I only have 3. I mean, I need so much help. I really do. I need lots of help. I need to talk to people, and you're talking about anonymity. Somebody broke my anonymity, and I'm just having the hardest time with it. My sponsor helped me do a little bit of a step forward, just a mini one, because I haven't done my first steps yet, and Jesus, I'm having a hell of a time with it. And so, yes, it's important. It's important. Dear God, because that was really tough. It's tough. I still really don't know what to do with it. But boy, it's nice to be just allowed to come in here and be tired, and having another mother speak about being a mother, and having somebody else talk about, what, they're there for the newer people. You want to work for us, and it's holy mackerel. I am exhausted. And I do need a lot of help still. Oh my God, 60 days is nothing. I tell you, it feels like nothing. So anyways, thank you for just letting me share that. And thank you guys for studying with me. I mean, this is marvelous. I appreciate all of that. Thank you. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Night-night.
Serena. Glad you're here.
Serena, I put my number in the chat so you can take a look, okay? I put my number in the chat for you.
Billy, wrap us up real
Hey,
quick.
double dipping here. So many of you have hit the nail on the head on so many other areas that, I didn't want to share on everything because that would be a ball hug. When back in the day when we were all on AOL, we had no guardians, as it were. And Linda was talking about, the turkeys that misbehave. Yep, they're still out there. And that's why after AOL, we went to another vehicle called MIRC, where we got to be the guardians, the gatekeepers. We got to not let the little turkeys in. And even Zoom today, nobody gets in unless you're known. I believe there's more turkeys that wander into face-to-face meetings than online meetings because we got guardians at the gate to prevent them. And that's funny. Serena, you so touched my heart. I have 36 plus. I don't know. I don't look at the day count. AA will tell me when it's an anniversary. But 36 years plus, and my boys, thank God, they never had to see me drink. They'd probably hate my guts if they did. But they went to meetings with me. One of my home groups, we had this little spare room. It was kind of like the supply room. And it's like, I got to take these kids to meetings with me. So I did. And all of a sudden, we had a TV. Then we had a VCR, so we could play VHS cassettes. Yep, there I go, dating myself again. Way back in the 80s. And people would give up a meeting to go watch the kids, because all of a sudden we didn't just have my 2 little kids. We had her 2 little kids and her little kids and her 3 or 4. It was a sleepover in there. My kids would bring their little sleeping bags and pillows, and they'd be in there well cared for, and I could actually have a meeting. And because if I had to have my kids sitting on my lap and I had to entertain them the whole time, I didn't get a meeting out of that. That was hard back in the day, and I had to do both. And this fellowship has grown and adapted so much. You know, there's a group up here in the sticks of Vermont. They're called We Are Not a Glum Lot. And they're all people that are, well, they're not just all people, you know, they're all walks of life. Some of them are straight, some of them are LGBTQIA question marks and everything else, you know, and they party. They throw a lot of parties. I want to go. They have fun. They have dances. You know, I'm in my 60s. I'm older, and it's a little harder because I start wiggling and then I throw a hip. But you know, but I still want to go. You know, I got pain patches. You know, put a little heat on there and a little whatever that is, and I might smell like a pharmacy, but I can still wiggle. So God bless you. Oh my goodness. You know, we've grown so much in the past 3 decades because, yeah, there was two old geezers went to the middle of the floor to duke it out over whether or not people were going to say, I'm cross addicted. And I'm sitting there going, people are addicted to crosses? What? I thought we were all trying to get away from the God of fire and brimstone. I didn't know that was dually alcohol and drugs. And I'm sitting there, right? Oh shit. I said to my sponsor, are they going to beat me up and throw me out if I say that I did drugs too? She said, just make it work in your head. Don't antagonize them. Because these were elder statesmen of the group. Okay, that had a difference of opinion as to whether or not we were going to let people with multi-diagnoses in the room. It was the dark ages. It was the 80s. Thank God for Bill and Bob. And for Bob, who was always telling Bill, settle down, youngster. We're not going all crazy, going into business and all that other craziness. Because Bill had a big ego. So, I'm just happy to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, Billy. Alyssa, wrap us up.
Oh, thank you, Trish. I will be cognizant of the time. I do listen when the script is read. My name's Alyssa. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I will, as soon as I'm done. You know, the forwards, I love these 3 because they brought it to the traditions. And the one that it, you know, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. I don't get to tell anybody what to do. Nobody gets to tell me what to do. They can make suggestions. I can make suggestions. But, you know, and I can't have expectations of other people because if I do, I'm putting myself in a position to be hurt. We're all sick, just trying to get well. That's the one thing we have in common. I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be. Every day that God gives me is an opportunity for me to apply these tools. And I just got back from a trip and, you know, I was able to see where, like, when my anxiety was starting to come up or my irritations because but I paused and it's like, Alyssa, you have no control over that. Are you going to give your energy to that? Are you going to burn up energy foolishly or are you going to apply the process? And when I checked myself and I applied the process, I have never had a more relaxing in the moment. I was where my feet were every single moment of that trip, with the exception of those moments where I checked myself, where I could feel myself, like whatever the situation we were coming into. And I'm like, no, because I have control over whether or not this disturbs me. That's what this way of life does. It's absolutely amazing, you know. And if I choose to be in a situation, then I choose to be there, and I'm choosing to have that be known. And I'm not ashamed of who I am today. You know, I'm a recovered alcoholic because I've recovered from that seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. I no longer sit in the problem. I no longer sit and should of things. And God has blessed me. I did not lie. I just asked you to wait a second because I'm speaking. You'll get it. I forgot where I was at. That happens. But being able to identify that whatever is going on about me, I'm off the beam. I'm no longer balanced. I'm no longer in God's will, and I can feel that quickly. And I have the tools to quickly get back in it. And if I choose to stay disturbed, that's on me. That's not on anybody else. If I'm giving them power, I'm giving the problem power. And that's not how I live happy, joyous, and free today. It's absolutely amazing. You know, I'll finish with this because I had to check myself this morning as we were getting off the plane because, you know, the passengers from the back want to hurry up and rush, but, you know, courtesy is we go row by row. And, you know, it's like, I looked at these two little kids, and the mom put these two little kids in a position like she was, and I was like, and I smiled at the kids, and I said, I hope you have a good day. And then I got up right after the kids walked, you know, and then the kids noticed that they were separated from their mom, so they stopped, you know, and I said, she's right behind me, don't worry, you know, but the old me would have said something like, are you really that in whatever the word is? But that's just an example of I have control over that. I have complete control over my reaction today. And I have these tools that not only allow me to manage the situation, but to connect with the one who has all power and get his guidance. And it's absolutely amazing. I keep coming back because more is always revealed. And I didn't think that my life could get any better, but every time it does. Because truth be told, 8 days ago, I was trying to, in my head, how can I get out of this trip? I can't leave my kids. Like, there's so many things, you know. And then I was like, no, I committed to this. I need to do this. God's got me. I have this way of life. And it turned out to be the most amazing week of my life without my, you know, with under the circumstances. It was absolutely beautiful. And that doesn't mean that everything went perfect and planned the way that people wanted it. And you know what? That's absolutely amazing. So I'll keep living a life beyond my wildest dreams. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Alyssa. Jerry, you want to come in and read out our closing? You're still muted. Find that little button. Nope, not working. Want me to do it?
Top of your box.
Okay, I got it. From page 164, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. And we will go ahead and close out in our usual pickle fashion with our hands up in the screen, because we can't gather around the table and hold hands. So this is the way that we hold hands and pray on the screen. So we'll take a moment of silence and we'll follow that with the Lord's Prayer. So here's your moment. Thank you. And who brings us from shame to grace if we let him? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come,
Our kingdom
thy
come,
will be done,
thy will be
on earth
done,
as
on
it is
earth
in heaven.
earth as it is in
Give
heaven.
us this day our daily
Give us
bread,
this day our
and
daily
forgive
bread.
us our trespasses,
Forgive us our
as we
trespasses.
forgive those who trespass against
We
us.
forgive those who
And lead us
trespass
not
against
into
us.
temptation,
We
but
get
deliver us from evil.
deliver us from
For
evil.
thine is the
deliver us from
kingdom,
evil.
the power, and the
Power,
glory,
Power,
Come back, it
forever and
works if
ever.
I let it.
Amen.
power, and the
Amen.
glory.
Coming back, it works.
Amen. That's right, it really does.
Works
Hey,
really good.
hey,
Thanks,
Hey,
everybody.
hey,
Great meeting.
hey, Terry.
Yeah.